Hello there, everybody. This is Nile Gardner, and he is director of the Margaret Thatcher Centre for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation. And for anybody who hasn't heard of the Heritage Foundation, it's a conservative think tank in the United States of America. And it was once much respected amongst traditional conservatives, but the organisation has followed the money by venturing into the more Donald Trump firebrand way of communicating, particularly since Joe Biden took office. And you're about to witness that being so perfectly demonstrated by Nile Gardner, who is going to fulminate against Joe Biden, only pausing for breath when the dim-witted Darren Grimes decides to intervene to throw up some further softballs. What you're about to witness is almost certainly bordering on the demented. One doesn't need to be a Joe Biden fan to realise just how unhinged this is. I will play it uninterrupted in its entirety so you can appreciate the full madness. And mad it is. Let's take a look.
So, joining me to discuss US and Ireland foreign policy in a bit more depth is the fantastic Nile Gardner, director of the Margaret Thatcher Centre for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation. Niall, thank you very much for your time. What do you reckon the Biden visit told people in the US about the UK and about President Biden's feelings toward us here in Blighty?
Well, Darren, thanks very much for having me on the show today. And I think that Joe Biden's message to the UK is that he doesn't care about Britain. This is, I think, one of the most anti-British presidents in modern US history. And Biden has behaved in extremely dismissive fashion towards the United Kingdom. He is somebody, of course, who seems to elevate Ireland and also the European Union above the special relationship with the United Kingdom. He's also a spectacularly rude individual, lecturing the British Prime Minister over Northern Ireland and Brexit policy. Who does he think he is? In the meantime, of course, he's hobnobbing with Irish elites, including Gerry Adams, of course. And for many decades, Joe Biden was an enthusiastic supporter of the IRA, terrorist movement. And so you can see where this is all coming from. And Biden began his presidency by throwing a bust of Winston Churchill out of the Oval Office, just as Barack Obama did before him. President Trump brought the bust back, and Biden removed it. And I have to say, I do think Biden is a disaster for America. He's a disaster for the free world, and he is treating Britain with absolute disdain, a fundamental lack of respect, and of course he's kowtowing to the EU elites, including those in Ireland as well.
Niall, I wonder, that contempt that you speak of, evidenced by President Biden towards Britain, do you think, personally, that actually the change in Prime Minister from, of course, Boris Johnson to Liz Truss to now Rishi Sunak, that actually President Biden feels that he can completely walk all over Rishi Sunak? Is that fair?
Yeah, and that's actually a very interesting point, Darren, because the Biden White House absolutely hated Boris Johnson, and they intensely disliked Liz Truss. In fact, Biden directly intervened, attacking Liz Truss's tax policies. And so Biden was part of this sort of anti-growth coalition trying to oust Liz Truss because they didn't like her low-tax, pro-economic freedom approach, which undercut, of course, the big government Americans. With regard to Rishi Sunak, I do think that Joe Biden, his advisors, view Sunak as a somewhat, I would say, softer leader. I think they do believe they can push Sunak around. Hence, you have Biden lecturing Sunak over the Windsor Framework, over trying to force the DUP into what is actually a very bad deal overall. And I think that they do, in the White House, view Sunak's Downing Street as a walkover and far easier to push around compared to Boris Johnson's Downing Street, for example. Sunak needs to stand up for Britain. He needs to stand up to Biden. He needs to tell Joe Biden, go mind his own business. It's not the role of the US president to be lecturing the British people over their own Brexit policy and Northern Ireland policy. And Joe Biden has yet again been acting as an extremely arrogant, buffoonish character on the world stage and demonstrating his clear, absolute hatred towards Britain. And the British Prime Minister's got to be tougher. He's got to stand up to Biden.
I mean, as I said at the start of the show, at the top of the show there, I actually feel like saying to President Biden, of course, he's not going to listen to me, but, you know, I feel like saying to him, we voted for Brexit, we voted for Boris, we voted for, you know, bold action to actually get Britain working again. We didn't vote for Joe Biden and the whackery and wokery that he's presided over in the United States of America. I actually think, Niall, he's weakened the West.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that Joe Biden has been an absolute disaster for not only the United States, but for the entire free world. His track record as president has been absolutely catastrophic. And one only has to look at the Afghanistan withdrawal, for example, as an example of that. Also, he leads the most far-left US administration in American history, completely taken over by, frankly, woke far-left extremism. And he's trying to export that across the world. And needless to say, Joe Biden loves the EU. He bows down to the bureaucrats in Brussels. He hates Brexit. He has no respect at all for the democratic will of the British people. And I do think that the Biden presidency has been a monumental failure and a monumental disaster for America. And Biden's just an embarrassing president, actually. He is somebody who walks around the world stage, and people are mocking, I think, American leadership or the lack of it right now.
I mean, just briefly, Niall, if you would, but Robert Wiener there talking from the former Clinton and Bush administrations, and he was talking about how actually, you know, President Biden's visit, we should feel that quite lucky that he's come here. But equally, you know, he spent more time in Ireland. He didn't fly the Union Jack. He flew the Republic of Ireland's flag, and now he says he's not coming to the coronation. I mean, I don't think we are feeling quite so lucky to have President Biden coming over here. Or special
absolutely.
Indeed.
In fact, I think, you know, I imagine most Americans are just glad that Biden's out of the country for a few days, probably. You know, I think that I listened to Robert's interview earlier, and you know, I fundamentally disagree with what he's saying here. You know, Biden has treated Britain with absolute contempt, just spending a few hours, I think, on the ground in Northern Ireland, and then 4 days in Ireland. It says it all, really. And you know, this is a president who really, I think, fundamentally is ruining and damaging the US-UK special relationship, and his refusal to attend the coronation, King Charles III, is yet another insult here. You know, Biden, I think, is doing all he possibly can to undermine the ties with the United Kingdom. He's no friend of the British people, that's for sure.
Niall, we'll leave it with those wise words there. Thank you very much, Nile Gardner, for your time today.
Oh my god. You know, I had to watch that 3 times during the making of this video, and on each occasion it just became more and more insufferable. So if you've made it this far, well done. But it is fascinating, genuinely fascinating, to see how unhinged these people have become and the rhetoric they're starting to push now. It's getting more crazed by the day. Anyway, you don't need me to dissect what was said there, because it's not worthy of dissection. It is just unhinged, the ramblings of a mad person designed to whip up the viewers at GB News, who are, of course, your typical patriots. So anything branded as anti-British, they will lap up. But yeah, this is where we are politically. The Trumpian dial of hysteria has been cranked up to previously unseen levels in recent weeks. And what Joe Biden's visit to Ireland has achieved is to wind up our own Trump acolytes who have bought into Trump's faux love of Britain because his mother was British. And listen, there's only one thing that Donald Trump loves, and that is Donald Trump. Anyway, cheers for watching, and take care. Bye.